So hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Welcome Home's Stay Well series. This is where we aim to invite individuals, groups and organisations to share powerful conversations around topics that can help to support our community's well-being. So today I'm joined by my good friend and our guest David Green, and we're going to be exploring the question, how can meditation help us to become happier and more successful? David is a former bond trader who had a successful career in finance. He's meditated for over 25 years, wrote a book called The Invisible Hand, which was written about business success and spirituality. And he's also written for the Huffington Post on topics such as leadership, meditation, mindfulness, and veganism. Perhaps most interestingly, at least to me, David has also spent 300 days in silence and seclusion, and that was without any contact from your family, your friends, the internet, or the news. So welcome, David. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode of the Stay Well series.
Hi, Dan. Really good to be here.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us a lot. So obviously I've given you a little bit of an introduction there, David. And I kind of like to jump straight in. We've come up with a few questions that kind of might help to guide our conversation a bit.
Yeah.
So just to begin with, I really want to ask you a little bit about which life experiences have motivated you to kind of regularly write, talk about, and also practice meditation.
Well, I went into the city at 18 and I had ambition and I wanted to be successful. And then if you jump to my 30s, I was stressed out, burnt out, not eating that well. And it suddenly came to me through a friend about meditation. So then I began to meditate. So it came to me, I suppose, like a magic pill at the right moment, because I was probably on the route like anyone else or many people. What do I do when I'm stressed? Well, I probably eat what I shouldn't eat, and I have a drink or two too many, or whatever. So then when I found meditation in my 30s, I began to practice this daily, often for 30 minutes a day. Even if I got up at 4:30 in the morning, I created the habit. So that's where the meditation arrived for me in my life. And I was a very unlikely person to meditate. I was very dogmatic. I was in finance. I was quite gregarious. I wasn't really interested in sitting still and looking at myself. I mean, that wasn't something that I'd been taught. So if I can do it, then anyone can do it.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing. It's really interesting that you say that you weren't interested in looking at yourself, because I think collectively in the 21st century, this is something that we really struggle with, is slowing down to the point at which we might be able to appraise what's happening for us, particularly maybe on the inside of our minds with the amount of distraction we have. And that's fantastic. Thanks so much for introducing us to the beginning of your journey. Mindfulness and meditation in the media, in the news these days, they're really popular topics of conversation. And what we often find, I think, especially in the wellbeing industry, is that these terms can quite often be used interchangeably, particularly by the media and anybody that's trying to kind of promote these in the mainstream. And I just wonder, being a young individual who's been a bit confused by these interchangeable kind of terms, what your personal distinction is between these two topics of perhaps mindfulness and meditation, just to kind of set the scene for the listeners a bit.
Okay. So in deep meditation, you have no sense of the body. You're in a state of being of deep love, deep awareness, but you're not aware of the mind or the body or anything. You don't know your name. So this is in deep meditation. So it is being in touch with our true nature, which is to be in deep calmness, deep peace, deep stillness. So that's all of us. So this is our true nature. When you come to mindfulness, it is manifesting our true nature into our daily life. So if you are in this state of calmness, in this state of being, you'll never hurt anyone, because you'll not be able to. You'll always know what is the right thing to do. So mindfulness and meditation are twins. You cannot really do one without the other. You can, but for instance, if you do mindfulness on its own, from a mental point of view, training the mind I should think before I speak. All of these things are excellent, but what mindfulness does is it increases our concentration. So if we are not cleaning the pot, what we call it the mind, then all that happens is that we become even more expert on seeing what is wrong. So if we take a very simple example, when we cook a great meal, we clean the pot, we clean the frying pan. If you keep using the same dirty frying pan, no matter how good the food was, it is ruined. So the point about meditation, which is a way of being in tune with our true nature. So and what that is to be still, to be loving, to be happy, to be calm. So this is the, I suppose, deeper distinction that I would come to. Now, there are many, many forms of meditation. There are many forms of yoga, and it's become a bit of a business and the rest. So when things become a business, people say, okay, I went on 3 courses, and then I created my own meditation. Nothing wrong. You can sit at the beginning. I can think in my early 30s, the first meditation I went to, incense was going, candles were burning, there were pictures of things I'd never seen in my life, and I was sitting there inwardly smiling as the music was going in the background. So this is all good. So just like anything, we have to start somewhere. But in time, we realize to meditate is to be in the quiet. Because if we use music or incense or candles, it is good. Really, it is good. I really say that genuinely. But sometimes we want to go a little deeper. And the mind is very tricky. So the mind will say, well, we can't meditate unless you put the music on. We can't meditate unless I listen to this app, because if I don't listen to the app, I'm not able to meditate. So what happens? The mind is still controlling the process. So at the point of practice, it took me, I can tell you, it took me 5 years of daily practice not to think, oh, I don't always want to do it today. 5 years. I can think back 25 years. And I can say genuinely, I really practiced every day. I can tell you for 22 years, definitely, nearly every day in the 3 years before. So the point is, if we brush our teeth or take a shower every day, it is the same thing. It becomes part of our life. And I think the other thing in meditation, the meditation has nothing to do with the mind. This is a common confusion, because when we suddenly close our eyes, we're still, we observe the breath, we just sit still. The mind suddenly sounds really loud, but actually it's no louder than it's been the whole of our lives. It's just that we stop for a minute. So many people will say, I tried this meditation, I did it for a week, it wasn't for me. My mind was going crazy. So like anything, it takes time. Meditation is not easy or difficult. It is just new when we introduce something in our lives. And what I always did, which I did in my career and anything else, is I kept going. I never stopped. So no matter what was going on in my mind, or no matter the stress in my life or personal life or business life, I continued, kept going.
That's
So
fantastic.
that's a distinction for you.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing distinction. I think you've given me so much to chew on there. If you like, there's so many sort of angles that we could dive in, and I'd like to really explore, some of the concepts and ideas that you put forth there. I'm just thinking, in relation to the people that might be listening to this, probably like myself, if anybody has or hasn't tried a meditation practice, and maybe they've used a smartphone device, maybe they've used an app, or they've been to a group session like you mentioned, maybe it was, incense and candles, or maybe it was, sat on the loos at work in the office trying to find a little bit of chill out time. And what I really noticed as a kind of novice meditator is that because of the way in which we can be, it can be suggested to us that, we might need an application or we need a teacher in order to meditate. And I don't deny that these things can be hugely helpful to certain people. And one of my favorite phrases really is, you can't be what you can't see. So, hopefully people seeing you in this discussion is going to inspire them a little bit in that way. But I just wonder, in the art of simplicity and wanting to make that experience of maybe trying or practicing meditation as easy as possible, do you have, a preferred method that you like to kind of try and explain or explore with people when they're first interested in getting started?
just going back to what you said is you can't be what you can't see. This is quite interesting. Um, in fact, you know what the meaning of guru is? Guru is made up of two Sanskrit, gu and ru. So gu means invisible and ru means visible. So actually the guru makes visible what is invisible. So going back to, do we need a teacher? Should we follow a practice? We always need a teacher in our lives. Who taught us to walk? Who taught us to talk? Our parents were our first gurus. So our teachers at school, they are our gurus. Our friends are our teachers. Our enemies are our teachers. Hopefully not too many enemies. So you kind of find your way. If you have some experiences in meditation, sometimes people want more and more experience. They may see some light, or may feel some vibrational heat in the body, or they may hear some inner sound. It depends on you. So I think in one way, everyone must find their way, because there is no right or wrong way. The essence is to feel the love in the practice. So whatever practice you do, whatever yoga you do, feel the love in the practice. So instead of going just to do hatha yoga as a workout like this, to be conscious that what is moving the body, what is the force, what is breathing through us. So some people say there's God or the universe or consciousness. You didn't know when your first breath would be, and you don't know when your last breath would be. Why is that? How is it we breathe at night, we have no consciousness? In fact, sleep is the closest description to deep meditation, but we're just not aware in that sleep. So in sleep, you don't know who you are, you don't know you have a body. So going back to how do we begin, a very simple way to begin is to sit straight, close your eyes, breathe consciously in and out of the nose, and don't control the breath. So this is the first thing, to observe the breath, because the stiller the breath, and the scientists have proved this, the stiller the mind. So the mind, people make such an issue about the mind. Who told us there was something wrong with our mind? Is there anything wrong with the mind? What is happening is that what we eat through the mind, with what we watch on TV and what we read, and what we hear through the ears, we are eating this food. And the same with what we are eating through the mouth. So our mind is a jumble of thoughts. It is like really an inbox in your computer. Stuff is coming in like crazy. Sometimes the computer puts it in spam or junk. And so it's a constant stream of thoughts. So what? Why do we make such an issue of what is going on in the mind? However, if we want to be successful in life, we must discipline the mind and grab it. And then the mind is a very good slave. But if we are the slave to the mind, then this is a problem. So going back to what do we do? I say to people, sit silently for 5 minutes every day to start. Find a quiet corner, turn your phone off, and for sure a distraction will come. It always happens. It is really almost like a test. The universe will send someone knocking at the door, or the phone will vibrate and you think, oh, should I pick up the phone? So the first thing is don't. Of course you will at the beginning, but don't. We're not that important. The universe will spin without us. And then I would say to people, focus in the center of the chest, the heart chakra. Just very simple. So close the eyes, sit straight, and just watch the breath. And keep attention in the heart. That's it. Very simple. But who wants simple?
Well, this is it, isn't it? That, you know, a lot of whether we're using applications or technology, it adds so many layers of complexity onto something such as, you know, so simple as just watching your breath for a period of time. And thanks very much for sharing that. I think that's really powerful for people.
By the way, just on the apps, I think it's excellent. The more people do yoga or meditation, it's fantastic. You can do laughing yoga, any yoga, because what it's doing is we're saying to ourselves, there's something I need to try in my life to fix something. Am I really happy in my life? So maybe I should try this meditation. I think it's excellent. It's fantastic. After some time, you may feel you're still hungry. And then you say, okay, what is a deeper practice I can find? So there are many practices. There are some gurus around. I met two gurus from India. The first, he was 91.
Mm-hmm.
This is from an ancient practice called Kriya Yoga, which is an ancient meditation practice with some asanas. So this is what happened to me. I'd never done yoga. I didn't believe in anything. So whatever the practice or the teacher, everyone can only teach to their capacity. So we can always learn from somebody, even if we feel that's not quite right for us.
No, that's fantastic, and I love how what you're essentially saying is there are many paths up the mountain, right? And it's that commitment to wanting to be able to maybe perhaps quieten the mind a little bit to learn more about oneself, and then that's the point at which you begin. And we often say, in the sphere of health coaching, when we set goals for ourselves, they have to be very realistic. And I really like how you said, just beginning with 5 minutes silent practice, each day, and being consistent with that. That's how we really fire up a practice such as meditation. And just, harboring on my own personal experience, over the years, I've tried a variety of applications, group sessions, my own personal practice in the mornings, literally, just using an egg timer, for example, in a quiet room. And, as I kind of came across with, it is the simplest of practices that have allowed me to continue, because when I've personally found that I've had layers of complexity to it, not only do you get this resistance, as you mentioned, at the beginning, this resistance to practicing, because generally we are so not used to stilling our minds at all and kind of sitting in silence. But as well as that, adding these layers of complexity around, do I need an application? Do I have my headphones with me? Do I have battery on my phone? And all of these things. So I love, how you've put that across so simply.
By the way, just on stilling the mind, it's not on. You don't have to still the mind. Let the mind do what it wants to do. The mind is there, it is a stream of thoughts. Why pay so much attention to it? Grab the positive thoughts and just ignore the rest. This is what I would suggest people do. Why give so much attention to the mind?
That's interesting, and it kind of leads me on to something I was going to explain next, is that, when I began my practice, I was using an application, for example. And so although I got some guidance, I felt that I was really trying to teach myself. And a lot of what I experienced was expectation around what I should or shouldn't, feel in my meditation practice, feel or hear or see, or, this great myriad of experiences that people can have. And I felt like I knew quite a lot of experienced meditators, if you like, such as yourself and other friends. And so when I first started meditating, I often thought that, my mind was jumping all over the place, or that, I was doing it wrong, or I was wasting my time, or, this meditation thing, it wasn't for me. I have my own experiences of having kind of surpassed that on my journey, if you like. But I just wondered, for the benefit of the people listening, if someone was wanting to perhaps start a meditation practice, or whether they've tried a little bit here and there and perhaps have had some of those kind of unexpected experiences that haven't, perhaps landed them in the cool breeze spot that they'd like to after a bit of meditation. I wonder kind of what sort of things you might agree that a first-time meditator might experience. Kind of shed some light on that for people.
Meditation is perception. Perception means what is happening doesn't matter. Just watch. So to be the witness. So if we can be the witness, then we feel less attached to the negative thoughts inside. Just be the witness. And what happens is the more we meditate, we accumulate more healthiness inside, I would say, a healthier mind. Suddenly, as we meditate, you might think, what am I eating now? So suddenly it opens the journey up. It is all going together. It won't make you more spiritual what you eat, but you'll get more calmness in the mind if you eat better, because the stomach chakra is related to the mind. So the more good food we put is good food for the mind. So there are many different practices. I tried to follow some of the yogic practices that I've been taught by these gurus, which I follow. I don't drink water during the meal, so I'll drink water at least 30 minutes before a meal, but not during the meal. Because the yogis tell that the food goes to poison because it interrupts the saliva flow and the digestion if you're drinking water with food. So I follow certain practices that I like. So I say, find what is good for you. And the most important thing is to practice daily. This is really the crunch. How can we be good at anything? Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, they're the first on and the last at training. They may have natural talent, but there's many people with natural talent who didn't go as far as they should have done because they didn't put in the effort. So if I take a yogic breakdown of who we are and why, 20% of us relates to our genes. This is from what some yogic people. 30% is our environment. So we pick up the genes for our parents. Some health may be carried through the genes. We may look a bit like our parents, probably. And then the environment we're in. This is 30%. How were we brought up? What were we eating through our eyes and ears? Were we in a loving environment? Were we in a difficult environment? Did someone say you need to get up and go to school, or someone said go if you want? So did we get that help and that discipline? And then the last 50% relates to our effort. So no matter, and there are many fantastic people who show this that come from such terrible, difficult backgrounds or poverty, they become very successful in whatever it is, whether it's singing or whatever, materially, it doesn't really matter, but they have some inner drive in them, but their effort is great. So this simple breakdown, and what it shows is that no matter where we came from, no matter what happened yesterday, if we live today in the present moment, which of course is, everyone says, I want to live in the present moment, I'm living in the present moment, then don't get a stiff neck looking back to the past. We can't change it. So what we can't change, we need to accept. So when we accept our situation and we accept that the present is due to the past, it means that the future will be determined by our present. So it is a very simple breakdown, and that the mind is in two states. It is happy or unhappy. And then we say we are happy or we are unhappy. And so either it means my body hurts or the mind hurts. But what meditation brings, or whether we're doing whether we call it the inner work, I don't like the word work, but looking at ourselves, just seeing who we are and checking in what's going on inside. When we do that, then really, I suppose, we can really make the change. But our happiness and unhappiness is from inside of us, not from outside. So what I mean by this is that, and I found this when you mentioned I went into 300 days of silence, what I realized is if I give my power away to someone else who may be unhappy with me or be unreasonable or anything, if I give my power away, then that's my fault. So how to be calm in situations, or change ourselves in situations we would normally react negatively.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, you're making me reflect a little bit on, my life before and after having started a meditation practice. And, what you've spoken about is this reactivity to situations and events in our lives. And personally, what I've found, even a simple practice of some yoga and meditation has done for me is really given me space, a kind of gap between my perception of a situation or, somebody in front of me doing something towards me and how I react to that situation. And I can't tell you, how freeing that's been in terms of my ability to, work effectively and be successful in my work, in my relationships, in conversations with other people. And that's really just from having that time to choose, consciously how I want to react to what's in front of me, which it's a beautiful and a marvelous thing. But I remember reading in your book, The Invisible Hand, that meditation was, I think you described it, and I might get it slightly wrong around, it's similar to trying food, in that unless you've eaten the food, you couldn't possibly say how the food tastes.
Yeah. And you're talking about space. In fact, what lies between the space of our thoughts. So when you meditate, then you can go into that space.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. I think we've collected some really interesting information here for people who might have been thinking about meditation, or perhaps those who have started a little bit themselves. Just a couple of final thoughts as we kind of move towards the close of this episode is one thing that always used to bug me, and I suppose again it's more of a practical question for you, is when would you meditate? When do you feel that it's perhaps most effective? Because we hear all different things, and whether it's like break or the morning or the evening, and again it just adds this complexity. It's paralysis through analysis, if you like, towards our meditation practice.
Look, we manage to do whatever we want in our lives and make room for anything we want if we are truthful. We always have time. And that's why I often said, if you want something done, give it to a busy person, because instead of thinking about it, they just go and do it. So there's 1,440 minutes in a day. Choose your 1 or 2% of the day, which is 14 minutes or 28 minutes, 2%. And then say, do I want to give 2% of my day to meditation, which is 30 minutes, and take the other 98%. So what I do personally is that in 99% of the time, I meditate, I get up, I take a shower, have a glass of water, and then I meditate, and then I eat breakfast. So this was my habit when I worked, which was most people watching are working. So get up half an hour earlier, 15 minutes earlier, and just build in the practice. So then it's a lovely way to start the day. And if you can do it twice a day, great. And if you have stress in the day, then go sit for 5 minutes when everyone else is having a cigarette break. Just close your eyes. As you said, you might go and hide in the loo earlier. We'll go and hide in the loo and close your eyes if you don't want to do it at your desk. And just sit and meditate, just quietly for 5 minutes. So I would like to think employers should introduce meditation breaks instead of cigarette breaks, and I think it would be a lot healthier and happier.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I've got many thoughts on that. A few things that always interest me about cigarette breaks, having been a previous smoker when I was young, is that
Me
actually,
too, by the way.
we were talking about the breath, and the breath helping to, in the practice of meditation. I've always thought that smoking a cigarette is quite interesting, because people, what they're really doing is taking long and perhaps deep exhalations, and maybe that's where some of the kind of relaxing aspects of that come from.
Yes, unfortunately, what you're inhaling isn't good for you, as we know.
Which is not quite the oxygen that would help our cells, no. Thank you so much, David, for joining us today. Hopefully this has given people a window into the world of meditation, and perhaps has inspired them or interested them to learn a little bit more about maybe starting their own practice. So I just want to ask, if people wanted to come and find out more about you, about your experiences and things like that after having kind of watched this episode, where would they go to find you?
Well, I set up a page on Facebook quite recently called the Silence Challenge, where I challenge people to sit for 15 minutes for 15 days in silence. And every day we had a mindfulness thought of the day to contemplate. So that's on Facebook. I've also gave a few small talks and mini meditations, so people who are attracted, they can go there quite easily. I wrote a book some years ago called The Invisible Hand, Business Success and Spirituality. That's out there somewhere on how I brought in some of these yogic practices into my daily life, and the experiences I had in business, and how everything is spiritual. Business is spiritual. If we're kind to people in business, and we can be successful in an honest way, and in a serviceable way. So I wrote about that, and hopefully at some point soon I'm going to have published my diary of spending 300 days in silence and seclusion, which I'm presently writing. So there'll be a daily diary of what I experienced without any news or internet, and through deeper meditation and mindfulness, what was going on with me.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. And what we'll do is we'll make sure that there's a couple of links below the video, so people can connect with the Silence Challenge, which I've been a part of on the Facebook group, and maybe a couple of other places that people can find you. So thanks so much, David, and thanks
Yeah,
everybody.
thanks for having me. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Brilliant, and hopefully, maybe we'll have another discussion again at some point.
My pleasure.
So thanks everybody for watching this episode. We hope that you've found it useful and maybe perhaps taken some inspiration towards exploring a little bit of meditation for yourself. I just want to remind you all that you'll also be able to view other episodes of the Stay Well series and follow the journey of Welcome Home through our YouTube, our Facebook, our Twitter, and our Instagram. So you'll also find all of those links below this video. I think that's all for today. So thank you very much, David. It's been a pleasure. And thank you very much, everybody else. And we will see you soon.